Greetings Guardians, my name is Bife here. I'll leave a timestamp in the description for those of you who want to get straight to Savathun's lore. Before we do that though, I did have a little bit of additional lore on Dredgen Bale. Silly me, I completely missed that the exotic drop from the harder version of the Oblation mission, which is an exotic ship, contains lore, and that lore is basically an ending to Dredgen Bale's story. My sincere apologies for missing that. It wasn't on ishtarcollective.net, and whilst I thought I'd found everything, it turns out that I missed out on Agony of Want. With this, Bale's story gets a little bit more context to its ending, so let's go over that super quickly. The lore speaks of how he went all the way to Saturn's moon of Pan. This is the closest moon to Saturn. He yelled at Six from here until he was hoarse. Then he acknowledged that he truly was alone and that Six had abandoned him to his fate. Bale's story then sees him returning to the last city without his characteristic mask, with all of his scars not completely on display as his hood was still up. Whilst he was there, he was looking for only one thing, the last thing that he truly cared about. For one final gaze at the mother that he lost to the light. His mother, who is now a guardian. He has abandoned the Barant Imperium for good at this point. He has broken away from Premier Loom, and he is now lost and hopeless within the last city, save for his final goal. Here at the end of it all, there's only a single thing he really wants, and that is to return to the one family member who ever cared about him, even if she doesn't recognize him. I wanted to make sure that I had this update in there. Thank you to those of you who pointed out that it was indeed missing. It should hopefully be the only piece of lore that I missed in this update, but I wanted to ensure that it was there for posterity, even if this is only a small addendum. Anyway, back to the story of Savathun. In this series of videos, I'm talking about the world of Destiny and the creatures, characters, and factions that inhabit it. In this moment of stillness, we can stop and see the world for the garden that it is, with the hope that one day it shall bloom once more. There have been few villains in the history of Sol as influential as Savathun, the Witch Queen. Born far away on the gas giant of Fundament eons ago, she was the one who led her siblings into the deep to find salvation from their supposedly doomed existence. What they found instead was the worm gods. Unknowingly, she had led her siblings into a snare that would make them agents of dark forces for the rest of their existence. But inevitably, Savathun would act to betray those that had originally worked to involve her in their plans. And so, the Witness and its disciples would be betrayed by the Hive God of Trickery. Her plans would shift to oppose the manipulators that made destroyers of her and her siblings. And inevitably, this would lead her back to the Traveler, and a plan to embrace the light. For years, she would watch the denizens of the system, only intervening when the time was right, only making small maneuvers here and there, even as those unfolding plans led to ruin for the Awoken and disorder for the Guardians. Eventually, she set her gaze upon Osiris, went about possessing him, and enacted her plans to ascend. After months of deception and with the implementation of a ritual at Mara's behest, the Witch Queen was rendered mortal and separated from her worm. In death, she was discovered by Immaru, the ghost that would ultimately resurrect her into a light-bearer. Though her plan to steal away the Traveler was thwarted by us, her ghost Immaru would survive, allowing Savathun to later return. Thanks to the plans of Eris Morn and the formation of an uneasy alliance, we saw Savathun rise again and face the Witness with us in battle. Of course, this peace was a fragile thing, more of a fleeting ceasefire than any lasting diplomatic arrangement. With our actions aboard the Dreadnought and the destruction of the Echo of Navigation containing the memories of her long-lost brother, Oryx, the Witch Queen would once again look to sow destruction upon our future path, and she declared herself to be our eternal foe. And so now, in this stranger moment near the resting point of our story, the Witch Queen would find herself approached by an interesting pair, offering a bargain of sorts. One was a hive light-bearer called Geist, a knight whose power was unknown to us, and whose name has not been mentioned as best I can recall. The other was the most infamous Dredgen Bale. They had approached the Witch Queen mutually with a proposal that was sure to pique her interest, a means by which they might all mutually benefit. Unquestionably, the real beneficiary of this deal would be Savathun in hindsight, but at the time, Dredgen Bale might have believed it to be a worthy endeavor on behalf of his master, 6 of the 9. It is also worth knowing that we don't know how much of this deal actually panned out as planned. This was their exchange. The subject of its core meaning is immediately apparent. Taox. Savathun speaks the name with venom. A Dredgen and a lucent knight stand before her, deep within the bone-white towers of her throne world. The knight does not bow, nor avert his gaze from the Witch Queen, even as the Dredgen known as Bale lowers his head in respect. She knows this knight, Geist, but not why he limits himself to fighting alongside a lightless Dredgen. Savathun's face contorts in a lipless smile. Taox is surely dead from a lifespan long exhausted. Why bother bringing another rumor to me? Taox is alive, Bale asserts. She's gathering strength in the Vex network, on a simulated Fundament. Bale meets Savathun's gaze and steps forward with a well-hidden limp before planting himself. My master offers passage to her location for your services in ridding a thorn from our side. Savathun spreads her wings and flexes them as she stands. Awfully bold for Planetary Dust and their meat puppets to come here asking me to do their dirty work. They're playing the same game I am, and for all the foresight in the world, they're much worse at it. Geist strides into place beside Bale. Slay the conductor, and with her death, 6 will open a path through folded Vex space. Bale raises a hand to Geist, who sneers, but then quiets. The Witch Queen's eyes shift from Bale to Geist and back. It feels like I'm doing all the heavy lifting here, Savathun says churlishly. 6 offers you the echo, and all the control it conveys. The Dredgen's words land with heavy gravity. Savathun's eyes widen. Take it and crush your enemy. Turn her to your will, if you wish. Is that so? Savathun purrs. Where does this path lead for 6, my dear new friend? Bale's face hardens. Where do paths take any of us? From where we are to where we must be. To escape. You know. These are the terms. Geist spits over Bale's shoulder. All that is required is that you sweep aside a weakening upstart and tithe her death to 6. What say you, Witch Queen? Taox. The Witch Queen's smile widens. Taox, for those of you that don't know, is the original traitor of the Hive. She was the one who betrayed Savathun, Oryx, and Xivu Arath when they were their younger selves. When the Hive gods eventually rose to conquer their homeworld of Fundament, it was Taox that would flee with all haste, and would evade the siblings at every turn, whilst also arming many of their fiercest adversaries with knowledge required to defeat them. It is rumoured that Taox may also somehow be related to the story of the Scions. Theory has long held that the Oxa machine of the Scions might have some great overlap with the sterile mother of the Osmium court. This is predominantly because of the overlapping knowledge base that both it and Taox supposedly contain, and due to the fact that it was once known not as the Oxa machine, but as the Oxta machine, Oxta being an anagram of Taox. Regardless of whether or not this is true, it appears that there is an exchange to be had within this bargain. Savathun would have to target the Conductor, previously known as Maya Sundaresh. It was the Conductor who acquired one of the echoes that were ejected from the pale heart of the Traveler, the Echo of Command. This particular echo contained the memory of a great admiral of the now extinct Kugu civilization. The memory of this admiral, known as Tekal, would attempt to advise his new compatriot. But whenever some decision was made, it was not him at the helm. It was the Conductor. And so it was the Conductor who had attempted to use this echo to recreate the Golden Age in her image of twisted perfection. It was the Conductor who searched through hundreds of copies of Chioma Essi to find the supposedly correct one, only to eventually murder and discard them. And it was the Conductor who used the echo to demand something impossible of 3 of the 9, and by extension, murdered it. The madness of this action left the Echo of Command damaged, and 3's death set off the chain reaction that would lead to our potential extinction. But even in a damaged state, Maya Sundaresh was a dangerous foe. It was perhaps unsurprising then that Bale and 6 desired her death, but it also makes all the more sense that Bale would see her death tithed to 6. After all, by the idea of sword logic, Maya is 3's murderer. She is therefore the only one to have ever killed one of the 9. Her death would be a mighty boon to 6 indeed, so long as it was actually tithed to it. And if Savathun would be able to find her way to Taox in the process, it would suit her well also. Revenge was not her domain, but it would still be something that she craved deeply, especially for one such as Taox. Whether these plans were set in motion or not, Savathun knew what was approaching. So too, it seems, did Dredgen Bale. They both knew that there needed to be an escape from the oncoming calamity that was soon to beset them all. How Bale hoped to do this is unknown, considering that his ascension and liberation of the Last City involved the death of all Guardians and the destruction of the Traveler. But Savathun, on the other hand, has been addressing this problem for a long time. Her solutions are wide-ranging. The most common theme relies on the possibility of her ascending into some kind of higher plane of reality, one in which she will survive. And it appears that in these moments, she may at last have discovered something close to a chance at doing that. One should also be aware, for understanding this possibility, of the words of the Hive Wizard Luzaku, who left us notes and commentary about the Hive Pantheon and Savathun.
Do you study the gods as this one does? The Hive's former pantheon has transformed, as we have ourselves. The Taken King is no more, and the Witch Queen broods over his loss, fashioning it into a tool for her escape.
It is unclear what Luzaku meant when she stated that Savathun was fashioning her brother's death into a tool for her escape. But I do wonder if this wasn't making a reference to another echo, With our actions aboard the Dreadnought, we ended up destroying the Echo of Navigation and the memory of Oryx with it. With Savathun having heard the petitions of Bale and Geist, she might also have been able to come into contact with another broken Echo, the Echo of Command wielded by Maya Sundaresh. I wonder then if her plan wasn't to take these broken facets of the Echoes and attempt to steal some vestige of their power for her own gain. They were incredibly powerful tools after all. It might not be impossible for her to have fashioned them into something that she would control. Whether this succeeded or not is unknown, whether this is even the case or not is unknown, but it feels as though this is the implication. What we should know is that undoubtedly she planned still to escape the approach of the Winnower. And this leads us to what is presumably the final note about Savathun and her plans. She would look to escape the oncoming calamity, but first, there was business for her to attend to. In particular, matters of the family. "Are you ready?" Savathun asks Immaru. Her great claw cups his narrow roundness, just enough to keep him close. Immaru's shell shivers. A little fuss of motion for no reason, but that Savathun holds him. "What have I got here but you?" he says. It is a scoff, an offhanded thing. "Lead on then. I want to know where we're going." Savathun lays one finger across her face, echoing a human gesture, though it means nothing to her own chitin and scale. "It's a secret," she tells him. "Always with the secrets." He isn't offended. He knows Savathun's power and where she divines it. But he loosens himself from her grip, and she lets him, only a second slower than he might have liked. "We shall see my sisters again," she promises him. Xivu Arath and her narrow boat on the Sea of Screams, and Eris. Oh, sweet Eris. "Still your sister after everything?" Immaru circles her crown. "She hatched from her flesh and molted into my sister," Savathun tells him, because he would do well to remember this truth. It will ever be true. "Sisterhood cuts both ways. I have killed my sisters before, and I shall do so again." "Now we're talking. Let's go." Immaru vanishes in a puff of light, a scattering of scale dust under her wing. There is only the path forward, and Fundament far, far behind. The palest of remembered glints in the long, deep night. Without further ceremony, Savathun gathers herself, and she slips between stars. Whether Savathun used this moment to pursue Maya Sundaresh, to plot against her sister hive gods, or used it to move toward achieving some other unknown objective, is not known to us. As Immaru understood, her secrets are hers to keep, as they always have been. But I would be foolish not to remind you that even in these moments of loneliness, in these moments at the end, Savathun will always be at our side. Not physically, of course. She would never indulge in something so gauche without good reason. No, she will be with us whenever we bring ignorance into the world. In every hearth-truth we spin, in every moment where we know better, in every almost remembered story, in every moment where we stay silent in confusion or ignorance. She is there, watching, waiting, perhaps even lightly chuckling, lost in the wind. She is everywhere, because every day we all help to create Imbaru. This is the power she gains from the very existence of lies, born of ignorance and asymmetric information. This is Imbaru. In this way, she is eternal. When the universe itself is drawn to a close, and the last beings die with secrets untold upon their lips, Savathun will be left to ponder their remains, and maybe even will chuckle at the falsehoods that fed her immortality, falsehoods that shall remain unchecked forevermore. For that is the greatest lie of all, is it not? That nothing lives forever. Whilst Savathun might well be the victor in our tale should she be left to her own devices, there is one whose victory now seems impossible. The quarry of Savathun, Bale, and Geist, the conductor. Her final actions, and what happened to her, is the topic of our next investigation. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit subscribe and also hit the like button. You can also leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section. If you want to support my lore content, you can do so on Patreon. There is a free tier, but if you want to get your name in the credits, you can join up on the Disciple tier. You'll see them in the end of every video. In the meantime though, my name is Bife. Ad Astra et Ultra. I'll see you, Starside.